Well, the Canadian city of Vancouver is taking a more ambitious approach. It wants to be the world's greenest city by 2020 and get 100% of its energy from renewable sources by 2050. CCTV's Karina recently spoke with Doug Smith, Vancouver's Director of Sustainability, to find out how the city plans to accomplish its goals. She asked him why the city is taking on such daunting challenges.
The whole challenge of Greenest City 2020 was brought about not because there's a prize or an Oscar for greenest city in the world. It was more to kind of put our hands up in the air and say, this is a really important piece for us, and we want to talk to the world and to other cities about what they're doing so we can learn from them and they can learn from us. Whatever we do here in Vancouver isn't really going to mean much unless it scales up to other cities. So by putting this very ambitious goal out there saying greenest city in the world, it got a lot of people's attention. So it did bring a lot of cities to us and saying, well, what do you mean by this? And then it opened up a lot of conversations. And so when something is difficult or expensive or challenging and people say, this is going to take years, do you really want to do this? We go, yeah, we're going to be the greenest city in the world. We do want to do this.
Now, it's 7 years since you came up with the plan, and you're 4 years away from your target date. Where would you say you are in achieving your goals?
Well, there's 10 different goals, and so some of those goals we've achieved already. Our transportation goal was to have 50% of our mode share be cycling, walking, and transit within the city. We hit that last year. So we're very proud of that goal. We're not stopping, obviously. We're going to actually push for 75%. But so some we've hit. As far as reducing greenhouse gases in our buildings, we hit 20% this year as well. So that's another goal that we've achieved. But again, we're not going to stop. There's other goals which are much more challenging. Overall greenhouse gases for the whole community, we've reduced by 15%, and that is about halfway towards our target, but it is a very, very challenging goal to meet, and we're going to have to work hard on that.
Now, Vancouver's green ambitions don't stop at becoming the world's greenest city by 2020. By 2050, you want the city to be 100% renewable. What would that entail?
When we say renewable, we're saying that all of the transportation and all of the buildings, which are the two big creators of our carbon in the city, our greenhouse gases, all of the energy produced or used in those buildings will be renewable. And renewable by definition just means it's replenished naturally as it's used. Solar, wind, hydroelectric, those type of things are considered renewable energy.
It sounds like you'd have to get gas-powered cars off the road entirely to meet the city's goals. Does that mean that residents in Vancouver won't be able to drive the car of their choice?
It won't mean getting gas-powered cars off the road. It'll mean switching the types of cars that people have between gas-powered or diesel-powered and looking at alternative solutions. What we're doing is enabling a system that will attract automotive manufacturers to sell their cars here. We're also putting charging stations all over the place. We're putting other incentives in place. So for example, when you build a brand new apartment building, 20% of all of the parking lots have to be compatible with electric vehicle charging. So you have to have the ability to charge vehicles. And we're going to be moving that number higher and higher every couple of years because eventually we'll need more and more people to have electric vehicles.
A lot of the heating for homes currently comes from natural gas. What do you envision replacing natural gas?
Heating homes is always going to be a challenge, especially in Canada where it's a little bit cooler. There's two options. With natural gas, there is a supply of renewable natural gas. For example, the City of Vancouver has a landfill. We capture the gas being produced in the landfill, which is methane, and we're going to feed that into the gas pipeline. Right now we're using it to heat greenhouses, but in future we could feed it into the pipeline and use that to heat homes or buildings. So that's renewable natural gas using waste heat. Another option, which we're very excited about, is actually changing the need of the buildings themselves. So instead of assuming you're going to need a certain amount of energy to heat your hot water and to heat your internal of the building, you change the design of the building so it's much more efficient. A passive house is a good example of a very, very efficient building envelope that hardly uses any heating. So instead of burning natural gas, just the computers and the people and the stove running in that house will keep it warm through the winter time because there's enough insulation to protect that building.
Now, I could see how you could do this with new buildings, but what about existing structures? Would they all have to be retrofitted, or how would that work?
Single-family homes and even larger apartments, 4 to 6 stories, can be retrofitted. You can change the windows, you can change the insulation, you can change the heating systems. Larger buildings, like we have in the downtown core, are much more of a challenge to retrofit. So instead of changing 50 buildings in the downtown core, we change the heat source for those buildings. So the downtown right now has district energy heating system, which uses natural gas to heat the water and the space heat in those buildings. If we can convert that system to burn waste fuel, such as waste wood, that will then allow us to convert hundreds of buildings in the downtown core into renewable energy.
It's obvious that in order for Vancouver to achieve some of these goals, they're going to have to get the support of the city's residents. Has there been any resistance?
There's definitely a core group of hardcore people who live in Vancouver who don't think we're doing enough, and we need to be more aggressive, and they're pushing us all the time. There's then the general population, which is maybe, let's say, 80%, which appreciate what we're doing and they like it, and then there's always going to be a small percent that are always going to be against just about anything we do. We've picked a lot of low-hanging fruit in the city. We've done good transportation work, we've done good building work. If we're really going to meet these goals to move forward to be a renewable city, we're going to have to start picking some of the higher fruit, and there's going to be more challenges and more costs and more changes to people. However, we aren't doing it, like I said earlier, because it's an environmental movement or it's something that we feel would be morally obligated. We know if we don't do this, we're actually going to be putting Vancouver behind the curve with respect to economic development and quality of life.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, CCTV-America.com.